They went for the things of the world instead of going for the things of God. That's evil. Now, God allows us, and I want to change this from good and evil to right and evil, okay? God allows us to choose between right and evil. Now, why do you think I changed it from good to evil? Because good is so subjective, isn't it? It's right or it's evil. It's righteous or it's evil. It's either toward God or it's against God. It's either into the light or it's into the dark. There's no in between. Christianity, God isn't as gray as the world tries to make Him out to be. God is pretty black and white, and there are so many things that are so simple when you really look at it. Look at Job 1:1, and if you're not familiar with Job, Job is the guy that was righteous in God's eyes, and the devil came after him, and he stayed righteous right up until the end when look what it said. There once was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. Why? Because he feared God and he, what? Stayed away from evil. He stayed away from evil. And the other thing about evil that I think we need to understand, and again, if you please put evil into the context that we're talking about, not the evil like we think when I mentioned evil to you a little while ago, is that people who are not doing right, in other words, people who are doing evil, guess what they want to do? They don't want to come with you and do right. They want to pull you. Look what it says. People away from God work to take us with them. That's what they want to do. People who are doing bad or away from God, when you're with God, they want to do one or two things. They want to get away from you completely, or they want to talk you to come and be in. Let me tell you something. When I'm dealing with a couple, for example, that's going through divorce, guess what all their divorce friends want them to do? When they say, I think I want to save my marriage, all their divorce friends want to talk them into continuing to get divorced. When I'm talking to somebody who struggles with alcohol and their friends who struggle with alcohol, they don't want to see them succeed in getting away from alcohol. They want to take them with them. People who are in the dark, people who are in the wrong, look what Psalmist said in Psalm 119:61. He said, evil people try to drag me into sin. And how does he combat that? He says, but I'm firmly anchored to your instructions, God. Next thing is this. When we act in old nature, when we act in our old nature, we choose the world over God. Again, the definition of evil. When we act in our old nature, when we act like we were before we were reborn, when we act like we were before the Holy Spirit came in our life, when we go by that old sin nature, then we'll end up choosing the world over God. Look at Galatians 5:19-21. Now, one of our favorite verses is Galatians 5 when we talk about the fruits of the Spirit, right? But here's what the Apostle Paul wrote, that when we're away from God that we do, if we're not going with the fruits of the Holy Spirit, if we're living according to the world, then what happens is, when we follow the desires of our old sinful nature, the results are very clear. Sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures, idolatry, sorcery, hostility, quarreling, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, division, envy, drunkenness. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Let me tell you something, though. This is not just immoral, bad behavior. God calls it evil. And God says that if you're living your life, and if you can list off, these are things in your life that you're doing, whether you're continuing to go to church and do other things that are spiritually right with God, if you're continuing to do this, then the fruit of your Spirit is not the fruit of the Spirit that comes from living with the Holy Spirit. It's the bad fruit of the Spirit that comes from living according to the world.